Welcome to the Comm-UNITY podcast. In this episode, we have the privilege of speaking with Hilda Nakabuye, a renowned climate and environmental rights activist from Uganda. Hilda is the founder of Uganda's Fridays for Future movement and an advocate for greater gender equality and racial diversity in the climate change movement. Her inspiring activism includes empowering more women to join the fight against climate change, advocating for saving Lake Victoria, and using her social media platforms to encourage digital awareness about climate change. Hilda's efforts have not gone unnoticed. She has been featured in various news outlets, including BBC News, The Guardian, Vox, and Time. She has been invited to speak at various international events, including COP27, United Nations General Assembly, and the Berlin Energy Transition Conference, to demand urgent action from the world's leaders. Join us today as we learn more about Hilda's journey and how she and her fellow climate activists are mobilizing Africa's largest youth movement to demand urgent action towards the climate crisis.
Hilda, you're most welcome to the Comm-UNITY podcast. It's an honor to host you today. In your own words, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Okay, thank you, Madonna. Hi, everyone. My name is Hilda Nakabuye. I am a climate and environmental rights activist from Uganda, based in Kampala, and I also fight for greater gender equality in the climate movement. And I'm glad to be here with you all today. And I am the founder to Uganda's Fridays for Future movement.
Thank you, Hilda. So I know that our passion and purpose can be derived from many factors. It could be personal experiences. We could be awakened, to be passionate about something, maybe from literature that we consumed. What sparked your interest in the climate change movement?
Well, to me, being an activist is not more of an interest or a passion, I would say, but it's more of a responsibility. It's more of a call, a survival, because I had no choice but to be a climate activist because I am a victim of the climate crisis and I've lived to see the effects of climate change on my life, on my community, with my family. So I was forced to be a climate activist. I didn't have a choice. And with the effects, I mean the rising temperatures, the flooding, the droughts, the landslides, and all many other effects that are happening in my country, Uganda. And I draw back to my story growing up as a child when I was staying with my parents. I experienced effects of climate change that also affected my education as a child. We had a big plantation in the village which was the main source of our income as a family. And my dad used to earn some money from this plantation to pay for my tuition fees. And I remember a time when we experienced heavy rains and they were consecutive, so like every other day, and they really lasted a long period of time. And this affected our plantation. Our crops were withered. Sorry, they were bent. They were taken away by the strong winds. They were broken, and it created a loss for us because we were farmers and we depended on that for our living. So for the next season, my dad couldn't raise my tuition fees as we didn't have any outputs from the farm. So I had to sit home for months while other children went to school. And this gave me the knowledge to know that climate change is something that affects each and everyone, regardless of their age or size or where they are based. And I've had many stories growing up that many people are affected by climate change in different ways, not only in my country, but, worldwide. And it's even evident in the global north or in the developed countries that climate change is present. So I draw on this to be a climate activist and to always speak up on the climate effects that people in different areas are facing.
That's a profound background you've given to this, and I like that you called to mind the fact that this is a responsibility, not just a passion or life purpose for you. We briefly talked about Fridays for the Future movement. Could you take us through how you came to take on your activism work through this model?
So when I was at university in 2017, that is when I learned about climate change, to know more about climate change, because in my school, we weren't taught about that. And in many schools in Uganda, it's not in the school curriculum. So when I was at university, I learned about climate change through a non-government organization that came to our university for a climate awareness debate or dialogue. And during this discussion, I learned that climate change really exists. And since then, I decided to volunteer with this organization. And in 2019, when Greta Thunberg, a Swedish climate activist, had her placard outside the Swedish parliament and carrying on the climate strikes, I thought this would be a good idea to have people climate aware in Uganda. So in 2019 is when we started the climate strikes here in Uganda. And I founded the Fridays for Future movement in Uganda with a few friends and different people. We started visiting schools, communities, roadsides, organizations, offices, talking about climate change, creating climate awareness. And it was a bit of a challenge because very few people understood what climate change really was. Different people had that definition that we were taught in school, but they didn't know the meaning of it. So we created climate education in different schools and carried on the climate strikes or the climate protests every other Friday on the streets or in school, anywhere. So that is how Fridays for Future Uganda was started. And it's a student and youth-led movement, and mostly women-led. And we have a network of over 53,000 students and youth in Uganda.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
we have had different climate activities such as lake cleanups, and we have so far had 37 lake cleanups. And these lake cleanups are, we basically go to the lake shores or any water body, and then we clean it. Then the waste we collect from these water bodies, we sort it, plastics alone, biodegradable waste alone, glass, and the other stuff. So we find ways of reusing or recycling the waste that we have got. So with the plastic, we share it with with other youths that take it for recycling, because as Fridays for Future Uganda, we don't have recycling plants.
Yeah.
And then the biodegradable waste, we use it to make energy efficient briquettes. These are an alternative to firewood or charcoal that is highly deteriorating our environment due to the rampant cutting down of trees. So these energy efficient briquettes are very eco-friendly, and they are very good. Anyone can do them, small scale or large scale, and they are cheap. So that is with the lake cleanups. We've also had community sensitizations where we visit different communities, and we talk about climate change. We carry out trainings, we carry out skillings, and many other things. We also have campaigns such as the Save Bugoma Forest, where we were fighting for Uganda's only left tropical forest that is actually going to be given out for sugar plantations, sugarcane plantations, yes. And we also have our recent project, which is empowering young women on the front lines of climate change. So with this project, we basically support 100 women to address or to fight food insecurity. And with this, we skill and train them to start up sustainable food gardens for their own families, so that they can have food for their families. And this project is mainly in the cattle corridor. The cattle corridor in Uganda is one of the driest areas, and they normally have rampant droughts throughout the year. So many women were suffering, were being affected with these droughts. So we thought maybe we could provide some help or support in regards to food at the table, and also some small income for the women groups. So this project, these women grow vegetables, and these vegetables are, some of them are sold to get some money, and then the others are kept or preserved for the dry season. Yeah. Those are some of the activities we do as Fridays for Future Uganda.
You're on to great impact, that's for sure. When you to look back at 2019, when this started, what's that one win you celebrate the most about this movement from when you started to date?
Okay, that's not an easy question, because you know, when you are dealing with the climate crisis, it's always very hard to celebrate. But I would say the small celebrations or things that we are proud of. One is growing climate movement in Uganda. As Fridays for Future Uganda alone, we are over 53,000. So that is not something small. And also, we've been able to influence policy both locally and globally. And I also forgot to share part of our activities. We organize mock COP27 or mock COPs. COP is the Conference of Parties, which happens every year once. Yeah. And before this conference, we organize youth in Uganda to come up with recommendations, or come up with a youth statement, or come up with different solutions and innovations that we can present to decision makers, world leaders, organizations. So every year we organize this mock COP event where we brainstorm and come up with different initiatives and a report.
And we share it.
Yes.
I lost you for a bit there. I think it was my network on my end. I'm so sorry about that. But could we just take it on from where you organized youth from Uganda to give a youth statement for the most recently concluded COP?
Yeah, so we organized the mock COP events to we bring together different youth from the different parts of the country. We brainstorm and come up with recommendations or innovations or solutions or things that we want to see world leaders or decision makers doing or taking into account. And then we put them in a report and present it at COP or during the Conference of Party. So last year we had a mock COP27 event, and we produced a mock COP27 report that is also on our website. You can access it there. And this has recommendations from over 50 youths from different parts of Uganda. So that is also part of the achievement. We've been able to influence policy, and we've been able to carry out climate education in over 102 schools in Uganda. We've trained over 800 climate activists. And yeah, those are some of the achievements.
I know it's a tall order to advance the work that you're doing around climate and environmental rights. And I think it's worth celebrating those small milestones as we hope for the bigger wins in the future, and even just for future generations beyond this context. In the interest of time, what final thoughts would you like to share with our listeners, those that are reflecting on the challenges they're facing because of what's happening to the climate and contemplating doing something about it? So, just your final thoughts on that and a word for them as we end the conversation.
Okay, so on a general note, I would advise each and everyone to become climate aware, to become climate sensitive. Spread climate awareness as much as you can. Take on sustainable ways of living. Reduce your energy use. Reduce plastic use. If you have a choice, please use reusable plastics, and carry out different activities depending on where you're based. But also, I would say, speak out against climate injustices, support the climate movement, especially youth that are doing a lot of work and are pushing for change. Please support the climate movement, raise their voices, share their activities, share their voices. And if you have power and you are in a position of making decisions, please think about the future generations, think about our planet. Don't do it for yourself, but for the people who will live after you. And I just want to advise every other youth out there to join the youth movement, spread climate awareness, and use your power to influence decisions in a positive way. And also that there comes a time when the world has to shift to a new level of understanding. And in the climate movement, we believe that this is the time when people have to get together, work together and achieve a common goal, that is climate justice. And with this, we need as many people as possible, because everyone has the power to create a difference. So you just have to find that passion, that energy that moves you beyond your limits, and be able to make the difference that is needed in our communities, in our society, but also the earth at large.
Wow, Hilda, thank you so much for this brief but loaded conversation and the wealth of wisdom you've shared from your experience and that of the movement's experiences. So we appreciate that, and it's been an honor hosting you, Hilda.